In the soft, misty Highlands of Scotland, where rolling hills cradle deep, quiet lochs, glide a story whispered from one generation to another, a story that has drifted gently across centuries, much like the ripples that touch the edges of Loch Ness itself. Tonight, as you rest, allow yourself to sink into this timeless tale, a mixture of myth, history, and gentle imagination, a story meant not to startle or thrill, but to soothe and ease your busy mind into calmness. The tale begins long ago, in a land where still waters stretch for miles, reflecting moonlit and clouds, a place where silence was broken only by a soft call of birds and a faint rustle of wind through the hagar. It was here, in this peaceful setting, that whispers of something unusual began to emerge, of the creature that dwelled beneath the dark, glory arches, surfacing only when the world was stillest, glimpsed by travelers and villagers who could never quite agree on what they had seen. Some said it was long, with a neck that rose like a serpent. Others spoke of the hump breaking through the water, sliding smoothly before dennying regard the sand. But all agreed that it was unlike anything else, a presence that made the loch feel alive. And in the sleepy corners of Scotland, the legend of the Loch Ness Monster began its quiet life. Imagine yourself standing at the shore, the cool air brushing your face, the coldness of the water drawing your eyes into its depth. The circus is still, so still that it feels like glass, and as you gaze across a vast loch, the mind slows, the thoughts socken, and you find yourself drifting, not into fear, but into gentle curiosity, the same curiosity that first witnesses must have felt. The people of the old Zelkin hoyt warriors, not with urgency, but with a kind of wonder, for they knew that Loch Ness was already mysterious enough with its depth and silence. Whether or not there was truly something that did not matter, for the very idea of it was enough to make evenings feel enchanted, enough to see gentle stories told by the fireside, where embers glowed and shadows flickered softly on stone walls. As the tale goes, so did its way to Zook, for it was never a tale of terror, but a tale of wonder, a bedtime story born from mist, water, and imagination. Tonight, as you listen, allow the loch to spread across your mind like a dark velvet blanket, calm and wade, cradling you as the first chapter of its sleepy history begins. The earliest stories of the Loch Ness Monster drift back more than a tales and deeds, carried on the voyages of monks, travelers, and shepherds who lived close to the loch. Long before the world spoke of monsters in the way we imagine them today, there was a tale written in the year 565, in the life story of St. Columba, a missionary traveled through Scotland. It was said that he encountered a water beast in the River Ness, a creature that frightened villagers and attacked those and came too close. But in the story, St. Columba raised his hand, said calmly, and the creature slipped away into depths, leaving silence behind. Whether this was history or legend did not matter, for what lingered was the image of something ghost and ancient living in the waters of Scotland, something that could have get warning and vanish just as swiftly. Nay, imagine yourself as one of those early villagers, standing on the bank of the river as mist curls chocolate around your feet. The water is dark, as deep as ink, and it flows slowly under the pale light of the moon. A scent carries across the circus, perhaps the splash of a fish, or perhaps something more, and you pull your cloak a little tighter, not in fear, but in awe of the unknown. The monks and recorded St. Columba's story may have written it with purpose, perhaps to show the saint's strength, or perhaps to remind people of faith and protection. Yet the tale itself became part of the sleep folklore that Scotland wrapped around its lochs. The people, sitting in the cottages, would speak softly of the beast, not as a terror to keep children awake, but as a reminder that a world was vast and filled with mysteries beyond what the eye could see. Ogre time, this ancient whisper folded itself into calm rhythm of life around Loch Ness. Shepherds tending flocks, fishermen casting nets, and wanderers pausing at the water's edge all carried the story in the hearts. It was never a story told with urgency, never something that shattered the peace of the land. Instead, it moved like the water itself, slow, deep, and unhurried, becoming less of a warning and more of a lullaby for curious minds. Even now, as you rest, you can almost hear the gentle echo of the voices, telling of a creature who slipped through shadows, unseen but always imagined, keeping the loch company through centuries of still nights. As centuries house, the story of the creature within the loch did not vanish. Instead, it lingered like the mist that floats low over the water, appearing and disappearing with the shifting winds of memory. By the time the modern world began to take shape, Loch Ness had already gained a reputation not only for its beauty but for its mystery. The loch itself is unlike many others. It stretches long and narrow, its waters dark and cold, reaching depths that seem endless to those who go into them. Scientists would later explain that the loch is so deep and so murky because of the rich peat that seeps into its waters, staining it a dark, almost black shade. But for the people who lived nearby, long before science offered explanations, the darkness only added to the sense of wonder. Standing at its banks, you cannot see the bottom, nor can you see what moves below. All you know is that the water holds secrets, and perhaps one of those secrets is alive. It is easy to imagine a creature slipping silently beneath those waters, its movements hidden, its body gasped, its form graceful yet unknown. Fishermen, traveling across a loch in small boats, sometimes silk of ripples that come when no wind was present, of waves that rose and fell as though something enormous had passed beneath them. Travelers, walking along the quiet shores, told at glimpses, something breaking the air for only a moment because sinking back into depths. And though each again differed slightly, the stories shed a rhythm, a kind of soft pattern, like the rhythm of waves against stone. They spake not of horror, but of curiosity, as if the loch itself was alive and wished only to be noticed from time to time. Nay, as you close your eyes, you can picture those moments, the gentle rocking of the boat on calm waters, the quiet evening gently across the Highlands, and the sudden appearance of the ripple, wide and slow, moving across the loch with no clue source. There is no fear in this vision, only wonder, the same wonder that filled the hearts of those who first told the tale. Older generations, these ripples of story began to overlap, creating a history both sleepy and enduring, a history that comforted as much as it intrigued. In the silence of night, when the wind stilled and the loch mirrored the stars, it was easy to believe that such a creature existed, not as a monster, but as a companion to the timeless waters. The legend of the Loch Ness Monster might have stayed a quiet local tale, passed gently from villager to villager, if not for the changes brought by the 20th century. With its bread and news errors, particularly and curious travelers, the world beyond the Highlands began to hear whispers of the loch and its mysterious resident. In 1933, a new road was built along the shore of Loch Ness, giving people a first clue view of the waters as they drove out. It was a peaceful road, winding gently with the shape of the land, and it opened the loch to more eye than it had before. That same year, reports began to appear in newspapers of a strange creature spotted in the loch, something large and moving, unlike the fish or boats that usually disturb the water. The world was already hungry for wonder, for stories that stirred the imagination, and the tale of Loch Ness arrived like a gentle dream. Soon, photographs began to circulate. The most famous, taken in 1934, showed what appeared to be a long neck rising from the water, curved like a swan's. This picture, known as the surgeon's photograph, became iconic, printed in newspapers around the globe. People gazed at it with fascination, wondering whether they were looking at evidence of an ancient creature, perhaps a survivor of a prehistoric age, living quietly in Scotland's hidden depths. Yet even as excitement grew, there was always a sense of calm about the story. Unlike the flirting tales of sea serpents or dragons, the Loch Ness Monster was not described as dangerous. It was elusive, mysterious, and shy, slipping away whenever people came too close. Its presence was more like a dream, something glimpsed in the corner of one's eye, then it before the mind could be certain of what it had seen. Imagine yourself in those days, walking down the new road at twilight. The loch stretches out beside you, its waters dark and endless. A ripple stirs the shook as far away, gentle yet wide, moving with a rhythm that suggests something loaded in fish. You pause, your breath sick, your eyes drawn to the movement. Perhaps you see something rise for just a second, a shape breaking the circus before sinking back into silence. You are not frightened. Instead, you feel a quiet thrill, the joy of mystery, the same joy that thousands would tune out as newspapers spread the tale. Guess was yet the Loch Ness Monster became not just a Scottish legend, but a story for the entire world, a bedtime mystery told across continents. In the stillness of night, readers everywhere could close eyes and picture dark waters, the rising mist, and the thought of something gentle and timeless living unseen below. As the legend of the Loch Ness Monster spread across the world, it began to attract not only curious travelers but also scientists, adventurers, and storytellers. Each came with their own hopes. Some weighing to prove the monster's existence, others content to simply feel the magic of the loch. In the 1960s and 1970s, groups of researchers gathered by the water, setting up cameras and sonar devices, waiting patiently for signs of something unusual. They sat for long hours, watching the still circus, listening to the quiet hum of the instruments, and recording every ripple that oused across the loch. At times, strange readings appeared, shadows moving deep below the circus, larger than any fish, shapes that dazzled even the most careful observers. Yet, just as quickly, the shadows would vanish, leaving only questions behind. The mystery deepened, but it never became frightening. Instead, it carried a rhythm of patience, at waiting, at being still beside the water and allowing imagination to wander freely. Imagine being one of those researchers, bundled in a warm coat, seated quietly on the hill as the night turns cool. The loch stretches endlessly before you, a dark mirror reflecting the faint glow of stars. Your equipment hums softly, steady and calm, as your eyes scan the horizon. Suddenly, a ripple appears where none should be. The circus trembles for a moment, then swoops again. Or is it a wind? A fit? Or something louder moving silently in the depths? The question lingers. Not urgent, not alarming, but like a gentle thought floating on the breeze. For many who studied the loch, the greatest reward was not a root but a piece of being. Get chance as it betrayed one of the world's quietest places in wonder. Newspapers would print the findings, and readers far away would sigh in contentment as they imagined the scene, the quiet watchers, the patient waiting, the dark water holding its secrets. Each new report added not food, but fascination, keeping the legend alive and weaving it more firmly into the world's imagination. Just as bedtime stories lull not with certainty but with possibility, so did the research at Loch Ness. It did not solve the mystery, but it deepened the dream, giving countless listeners something to ponder gently as it drifted into sleep. By the time the late 20th century arrived, the Loch Ness Monster had become more than a local legend. It was a symbol, a story woven in a fabric of Scotland's identity, and a gentle mystery that the world embraced. Tourists fladdled from distant lands to stand by the loch, the footsteps soft on the gluted backs, the eyes weighed with expectation as they gazed across the still waters. Families arrived with children, who clutched the iron's hands and whispered questions in hot voices, wondering if it might be the lucky ones to catch a glimpse of Nessie, as the creature had affectionately come to be known. Shops in nearby villages offered small figurines, postcards, and warm mugs painted with a monster's long neck, not as something terrifying, but as something friendly, an image of wonder rather than a fur. In this way, the Loch Ness Monster slipped gently from misery into myth, and from myth into comfort, becoming a story told with smiles as much as with whispers. Imagine walking into one of those small Highland shops on a rainy afternoon. Gay air smells faintly of peat, smoke, and wool, and shelves are lined with keepsakes, softest shaped like the monster, books filled with drawings, maps showing the long, narrow loch. A shopkeeper smiles warmly as you burps, perhaps offering a story of the home, of the time when the saw ripples spread across the loch with no clear cause. Whether the tale is fact or fancy doesn't matter. What matters is the rhythm of the vase, the warmth of telling, and the way it adds another layer to the dream. Visitors leave not only with souvenirs, but with a piece of the legend tucked softly in the hearts, ready to retell in quiet moments, like a bedtime story oused from one home to another. And still, the loch remains the same, calm, deep, and mysterious, holding its secrets beneath waters that glimmer under sun and moon alike. Nessie, whether real or imagined, has become more than a creature. She has become a companion to those who seek wonder, a reminder that a world does not get up all its secrets at once, and that sometimes the unknown is a gift that soothes the restless mind. As you listen now, picture the loch again, stretching out into distance, its sharkish troop, the mist curling low, and imagine that just beneath that calm exterior, something timeless moves gently, unseen yet ever-present, keeping watch over centuries of dreamers. As the decades passed, the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster began to weave itself into modern culture in ways both gentle and endearing. Writers clocked in novels that placed Nessie at the heart of quiet adventures. Films portrayed her as a shy doty of the loch rather than a frightening beast, and bedtime storybooks transformed her into a kind companion who circused only to watch the moonlight dance upon the water. Children and glue-up folk from Scotland would place noses to picture books and dream of visiting the loch one day, while older listeners would smile softly at radio broadcasts and television documentaries, content to imagine the story without either needing to see proof. The mystery of Nessie became less about evidence and more about feeling, about a curiosity that rises when a think is something beyond our knowing, something that rests peacefully in the dark waters. Imagine yourself sitting in a small cottage by the loch on a rainy evening, the fire crackling softly, the scent of wood smoke curling through the eye. Outside, the rain taps gently against the windows, steady and shugging, while the loch stretches hidingly into the mist. You open a worn book. Its pages filled with old clippings of Nessie's sightings, sketches drawn by hopeful witnesses, and gentle notes scribbled in the margins. Each page carries not certainty, but possibility, and as you turn them slowly, you feel the rhythm of curiosity lull you into stillness. Some pages tell of boaters who swore they saw a long shadow moving just beneath the surface. Others show grainy photographs, shapes half hidden by water and distance, leaving the eye to decide what it sees. None of it is conclusive, but none of it needs to be. For the story of the Loch Ness Monster has never been about Aroof. It has always been about wonder, about giving people a mystery to cradle as it drift into rest. Across the world, people egg a story in different ways. Some speak of Nessie as a Prince-Art survivor, others as a spirit of the loch, still others as a playful invention of the imagination. And yet, no matter the Dervin, the heart of the tale remains the same. In a quiet corner of Scotland lies a loch so deep and so still that it seems to hold secrets. And within those secrets lives a presence that is not frightening, but timeless. The story flows like a lullaby, comforting because it does not demand answers, soothing because it invites us simply to dream. Though scientists and skeptics often question the legend, but voyeurs never erase the gentle magic of the Loch Ness Monster. Over the years, many investigations tried to uncover the truth. Boats equipped with sonar scanned the depths, airplanes circled above taking photographs, and even submarines explored the waters, searching for signs of life hidden in the loch. Sometimes, they found shapes too loud to explain, dark figures moving beneath the urcas, or sudden waves where no boat had passed. Other times, their instruments revealed nothing but stillness. And yet, no matter the results, the story endured. People did not cling to Nessie because of evidence alone. They clung to it because she represented the quiet comfort of mystery itself. There was something deeply soothing about a question we get an answer, a puzzle we can imagine endlessly without ever needing to solve. The Loch Ness Monster became that puzzle, a gentle reminder that not all things must be excellent to be meaningful. Imagine yourself aboard one of those quiet research boats at dawn. The air is cool and damp, the edges of the loch swug as glass, and the Mandan's rise lake shadows around you. The hum of the sonar echoes softly, steady and calm as you peer into the mist. For long minutes, nothing stirs. Again, a ripple spreads far across the loch, widening slowly, as though something ghast has shifted below. The water smooths again, leaving only silence. You exhale, a slow breath of wonder, and lean back against the side of the boat. Whether it was a fish, a trick of the current, or something more does not matter. What matters is the stillness, the quiet weight of the unknown resting gently in your heart. In this way, the legend continued, not true certainty but true peace. Families visited the loch not to the mound answers, but to stand on its backs, breathe its cool air, and feel themselves part of something louder and older than their own lives. And as bedtime stories drifted through households across the world, Nessie's tale became a bridge between waking thought and restful dreaming, a reminder that it is all right to let some mysteries remain, and to find comfort in space between knowing and imagining. As the years turned into decades, Nessie found her way in the hearts not just as a mystery, but as a friend of the imagination. For children, she became a gentle guardian of the loch, a creature who circus to watch the stars shimmer on the water or to listen to wind weeding through the Highlands. For adults, she became a symbol of childhood wonder that never forgets, a reminder that even in a world of explanations, there will always be places where the unknown lingers quietly, inviting other to ours. Festivals were held in honor, where locked to fill the air and families shared stories, songs, and drawings of the famous creature. In classrooms, teachers told students of the legend, not as fact, but as a way to spark curiosity, showing that history is filled with tales that invite questions rather than answers. Imagine standing by the loch during one of these gatherings, lanterns glowing softly along the shore, children chasing one another through the grouse while music drifts gently in the background. The water lies still and wide, the moon's reflection stretching across it like a pout of silver. People look, but the boys are calm, carrying a tone of depiction more than excitement, as if Nessie herself were part of the family, an unseen guest of honor. The loch feels alive, not with proof, but with presence, a presence that brings people together in warmth and wonder. Older time, artists painted her, poets described her, and dreamers gave her countless shapes, sometimes sleek and serene look, sometimes rounded and kind, sometimes little more than a shadow slipping beneath the waves. Each variant added to the tapestry of the legend, a tapestry that comforted as much as it intrigued. And for those who lived from Scotland, Nessie became a story carried across oceans, we shared in bedtime rituals, sulking in quiet voids as children lay with eyes heavy, drifting towards sleep. In these retellings, the monster was never monstrous. She was timeless, patient, and gentle, a soft reminder that our world is more magical than we often remember. Even now, as you listen, the story wraps around you like a blanket, not sharp or startling, but smooth and steady, a lullaby written in water and mist. And so, the story of the Loch Ness Monster drifts into the pleasant day, not as a question to be solved, but as a melody to be remembered. Nessie remains both a mystery and a comfort, a legend echoing softly across generations like ripples spreading outward on still water. Some continue to search with cameras and sonar, but hoping for that one cold glimpse that will finally prove her existence. Others simply smile at the thought of her, content to let the legend lag in imagination. Whether hoax or reality, fact or folklore, the monster of Loch Ness has grown into something far louder than any single sighting or photograph. She has become a symbol of wonder, a gentle reminder that the unknown is not always something to fear. Sometimes it is something to cherish. Imagine yourself near the water's edge in the quiet at evening. The air is cool, the sky deepening to twilight, and the loch stretches before you like an endless dream. The circus is calm, holding the reflection of the fading sun, the first stars blinking into view above. You wait, not with urgency, but with peace, listening to the soft rhythm of waves breaking the shore. Perhaps you see a ripple far away, perhaps you imagine a shadow beneath the aircase, or perhaps the water remains still. It does not matter, for the comfort lies in the possibility, in the space between knowing and not knowing, where imagination can rest. In that space, stories are born, stories that carry across centuries, stories that lull the restless mind, stories that invite us to drift towards sleep with hearts a little lighter. The Loch Ness Monster, whether real or imagined, has given the world a gift, a reminder that mystery itself is shooting, yet it is enough to wonder, to dream, and to let go. As you close your eyes now, let the lock spread across your thoughts, gas and calm, holding you gently as a legend has held so many before. And in that stillness, let yourself drift deeper and deeper into rest, carried by the sleek history of the monster who is not frightening but timeless, a guardian of dreams, a companion of quiet nights, and a friend who will always linger in the midst of imagination.